Welcome everyone. Glad to see everyone here, especially friends and family, right? Super close to me. So, as you are aware, I'm Tayler Kittle. I'm from Football, Manitoba, here, 5th generation, and my practice of art is photography. So, what this exhibition, as you are aware, is called Northern Vision. I like to definitely specify on photographing different regions of the north, whether it's in northern Manitoba, northern Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, but it definitely goes deeper into it because sometimes even being in southern locations of certain provinces, you see traits of home, which is the north, right? So if you're in Riding Mountain, you have different areas where, the plains meets with the deciduous trees and stuff. So you have pine trees and stuff. So it's overall, it's kind of my vision of the north. And I just talk about that because some of these photos, such as the mountaintops that you see here, and the glaciers, were taken in Jasper and Banff, actually more Jasper than Banff, and technically to an Alberta standpoint, Jasper isn't north, but when I looked at it on a map, everything in BC was north of Highway 16, and Highway 16 touches Jasper in Alberta. But then, you look at the intricate details of the rock and the snow here, and even the ice of the glacier, right? And it's stuff we still see around here, minus the glaciers. But so it still gives you, or myself, that northern feel, and that's why I included them in this art show, because it's just that vision and that sense of home being the north. So those are the only photos that I would say are a little off-putting to this exhibition here, because even in southern BC and stuff, you get that feel of the north because it's everywhere, right? And even thinking deeply into it, what is the north, right? Canada is known as a northern country. Yes, we here in Funfon are north, but if you look at us on a map, we are central, right? So it's your interpretation, it's my interpretation, and this is Northern Vision. So the works I included and why. As you can see, these are, maybe not, but to me, I love every single one of these photos. They're just phenomenal, and they're exciting. I would keep them all in my house if I could. But why I chose the photos was I had to really narrow down my favorites, but also best quality, because I'm very picky now in the photographs that I choose and I like to shoot. So I guess I'll go into detail a little more so you can grab an aspect on each photo, and I'll cut it short as well. So down here, at our far left, my right, that is at Wekusko Falls, local tourism spot. And I also wanted to note too, speaking of tourism spots, like lots of these places such as PCU behind me, they are popular, and I want to expose the north as well. Even though, we as Manitobans like to go to these places, it's still so underexposed to the rest of the world, and we're so lucky to have this in our backyard. So that's something that also drives these photographs and why I chose to image them and stuff. So as you can see, it's Wekusko, and the framing of it, sometimes I like standing there and taking a landscape, but I have to have something going for it. So I like different textures, I like colors, I like dark, moody. So that particular image, I'll hug a tree and sit on a ledge, the river's down there, and I want to frame it because I feel like it'll add that nice texture, right? So you have something in the foreground and in the middle ground and the background, but at the same time it's just adding a different feel to the image. So that's kind of how that one came to be. And the one next to it is Pressure Ridge. So that was taken this fall, actually. I drove to the Paw and woke up early in the morning, and I went out to Clearwater Lake. And at Clearwater Lake, because of the rock cliffs and how the bottom of the lakes meet the shore, it comes up hard on a reef, so there's a pressure ridge pretty much expanding that whole southern region of the lake. So it's quite spectacular to see, and I wanted to just capture the sheer pressure and force of water and ice, because it's something that I think about when I think of the north. I think of cold, blue, just miserable temperatures for some, you know. That's why we go to Mexico, but I want to stay here. Interesting about it, I have a leading line. So the line, the crack is actually open water. So I just like hovered above it and got as low as possible, and I just wanted to show and emphasize the might of the ice as it pushes up against itself. And the next photo is actually at the caves, or the limestone crevices at Clearwater. So I was walking, and interesting thing, and I tried researching it, but I couldn't find too much about it. The ice and the water kind of comes on top of the cliffs, and then it comes down, and it's not because there's water above, but it's almost as if the waves are carrying that much water, especially in the fall, which is crazy to think about, that they're forming that kind of icicles on the tops of these 10-foot cliffs, even though the waves normally are 5-4 feet. So I hopped in this cave, and the water would be to the left, and I just love the lighting and the texture of the roof of the cave and the orange. If you get really close, there's really fine orange detail in the cave as well. So that's kind of where I went with that one. The other one is Wekusko, and honestly it was just the leaning tree of how it leans into the image and it draws you in. And then for myself, it has me looking up, and then I notice the water in the middle. So like I said, lots of these, they are landscapes, but I like to think of them as abstract too. I want people to feel something in these images, and I want them to explore these images, not just through the images, but go out and see them. And, you know, really look at our surroundings and the beauty of it, you know. Because the North is spectacular. We are so lucky to live here, and you know, it's just so beautiful. And then the next photo is the texture of the mountain in Jasper, and this just reminded me of a texturized Klondike bar, and I just loved it, honestly. I was just like, wow, just, you know, you have so many lines running in different directions, and just the textures just spoke out. And then of course the clouds, and that's something I'll note about myself. I do not like shooting on sunny days. I absolutely despise it, because as a photographer you have overexposure, which is too much light. And if you have a landscape, this is me personally, if you have a landscape and you can have a beautiful sky, beautiful day, and you're not, you know, almost getting frostbite on your fingers, it's not good enough, because the sky is over blue, so I always like clouds in it, and the darker the better, because it just adds that much more depth and meaning and interpretation into the photos. So here, this was taken out at Isquassam or Loucks Lake or the Grass River. They're all connecting. So at my favorite spot close to my heart, I was near the water's edge and I found these little pine cones with the frost, and I got out as close as possible and I just photographed them where my focal point basically just made them so in depth and intricate. So it's just finding the little things and putting them on a bigger scale. So then over here we have PC Falls, and I'll move. So PC Falls, for those of you that don't know, is the second largest waterfall in Manitoba near Thompson. You can view it from two viewing platforms, but I wanted to get close up and personal. Sometimes you do have close calls, but those are stories you don't talk about, you just laugh about.
Not in front of your mother.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, not when your mother's.
No. So this one, I came around, and usually this is a peninsula and also a unique thing. This ice, this is all ice right here, and I can't exaggerate how much ice this is, because I think this is throwing off like 300 liters per second of water over the top of that falls. So the mist is forming a huge ice dome basically on this peninsula, and it's immaculate. So I basically climbed on top of it just to get a different angle that no one else would really picture of PSU, right? Because I wanted to fit in the clouds at the time and the falls and the ice. To me, the ice is the main focal point, but then your eyes are drawn to the falls, right? Just a reminder of like what this creates. So then I'll move to this, which is part of Angel Glacier, which is in Jasper National Park, and it's at an area called Edith Cavell. Now Angel Glacier is like melting at a huge rate right now because of climate change, and I thought like, I'm not going to Greenland or Iceland anytime soon, so this is the next best thing. So at the bottom of the glacier where it's melting, it goes into a pond, and then there's also a part of the glacier still frozen on the one wall of this rock wall. So that's what this image of is, because it's different from looking and standing on a frozen lake and taking a photo down. I thought, wow, we're seeing a different side of ice. And then to know that this is a glacier, it just has a lot of power, a lot of meaning, a lot of different emotions when it comes to it. And also, the details within it. Like all these brown and black gray spots, those are rocks from the mountains that are coming along with the ice. So it's super interesting. I love to like learn about the ecosystems I'm shooting in, also like from a conservational type of view, but also to show people not only check these places out, but respect them and just love them as much as I do, because I absolutely love going out and adventuring these places, because one day maybe they'll still be here, maybe not, right? So then I'll move back up. So these two images are PSU. So this one here on the left is actually the very top of PSU Falls. So how I captured this image, there was water and then a tree, so I like held on to the tree and photographed it. But what made me photograph this, and you can maybe tell, is the sorry if I'm cutting off your view, is how the trees bring you into the middle. and then for me, it makes me look down at the water. And obviously the clouds turned out spectacular that day. So I got all optimal angles of the falls, you know, before, during, and after. So this brings us to after, and this is the river, you know, the grass river just flowing in the dead of winter. I absolutely love this river and what it like stands for historically, culturally, and you know it's a northern river, and it's amazing because there's a whole area that just feeds off this. So it's just a mighty river with so much to see and do, you know, because this river is a part of this, and it's a part of Wekusko Falls. It's all intertwined, right? So all of these have different meanings, different aspects, but they're all so similar because they're, you know, at the end of the day, they're all the north, they're all beautiful, they're all spectacular. I want everyone to see them, I want everyone to enjoy them, and, you know, have some type of emotion. It might not be the same. You might look at a river and be like, yep, water and snow, whereas I'm like, water and snow, like, can't wait. So then we move to this image. This was near the Columbia ice field somewhere, and I just wanted to photograph a section because the Columbia ice field is just also melting at an immaculate rate. So what I found too, as you can see, are epic clouds, snow and ice down here, but the rock and the texture, and it just reminds me of home, like all of this here in Flin Flon being on the Canadian Shield. So that's what made me really draw this. Lots of them has to do with textures and depth of the field and stuff, and adding like a certain punch, and that's what the clouds do in this. This, same as the other mountaintop, it was a colder day, and that's why I kept the top monotone. So I just cut down the color, and lots, you know, there's just so much ice, and this top of the mountain is actually photographed a lot, but I didn't, or this mountain in general, so what I wanted to do was just cut it in half, because this was the part that just spoke to me. And this one, I can't really tell you, because it just spoke to me, like most other images. And it may sound cheesy, but it's the truth. Like, when I'm out, sometimes I plan things, sometimes you just wing it, and that's what I've learned through photography. Everything is an absolute crapshoot, basically, right? This is an epic photo, and I say epic because there's a story behind it. So this was at Mikanagan Falls, and for those of you that don't know, it's a local spot here in Flin Flon, or around Flin Flon, that you have to kayak or canoe or, you know, any form of other transportation except for walking and driving, right? So Mikanagan Falls is a part of the Pine Root River, and last spring I decided to snowshoe in there. So I went alone. Took me about 2 hours, and I got there, and the water was so low, all water levels everywhere last year, along with this year. So it made a perfect day with a little bit of sun, but cloud, and for me to get up close to the falls. And there was deadfall everywhere, and it was a place I've always wanted to go, but never had the chance. And then one day I was just like, you know what, I have to do it before I leave this past summer to go out west. And so I went to the falls, and yeah, I even stripped down, got naked, and took a photo of myself using my tripod, because the theory behind that was, it's so nice out, it's like 12 degrees, I'm, you know, probably not going to freeze because I'll be sweating on the way home, but also from a survival standpoint, you sweat, you die. So I did the next best thing, and I photographed my body, but the good half. So yeah, Mickanogan was an unbelievable day and experience. It's definitely worth checking out, and it's so cool that we have like this waterfall that like not a lot of people know of. You know, obviously us in the room where we know about it and we only share it with those, right? So it was just an amazing overall experience, and yeah, that's why I photographed it. Was just the story, the experience, and the different textures, and just being able to go to this place that you hear so much about, even though it's off the beaten path, for sure. So the next image is the ski club, and I took up skiing again. We learned it in school, but I really took it up last year and just honed down on my Scandinavian roots, and went back to some Nordic skiing. And on this trail, as you can see, is this warm-up shack, and I photographed it because it just reminded me of my time in Austria. And in Austria, under the Alps, you know, you have these little farm huts and the cows running around and stuff, but this just reminded me of like alpine skiing and being in the Alps, and it just shows like the sheer beauty and how much we have around here, even though it's a photo of a hut, right, with some skis on it. But it's like, you could see this in Austria, but we have it here in our backyard. So this is more of an image that I want to, like, you know, promote people to get out and explore, whereas the other ones, some of them are the same thing, but they're more abstract when you look at it, and making you think and feel when you look at the images or go to these places. But this one for me is like, get outside and you'll see cool stuff like this that you may not want to check out, but it's worth it. This one is at Pine Root, so it's that river down the old highway, and I stopped here this fall, and this fall was hard. I was in Brandon, Manitoba, and it's flat. There wasn't a lot of snow. There was no snow at the time, and I waited so long to get up north, and then finally I just went out, and I went to a little location that I will not name, and then I just try to like get back into the groove of taking my photographs. And right before this, I realized that like my favorite season is to shoot in the winter, in the cold, -50. But this photo in particular, why I photographed this was the different textures of the snow, right? Some people might envision little snow turtles, but for me it was just neat how the snow just sits on top of the rock. It'll literally wrap itself and defy gravity, basically, right? But adding this magical touch, and you know, the leaning tree drawing you into the background of the dark clouds, and it is a dark and moody image, and that's something I'm also really about, is those dark and moody images sometimes. So that's what led me to photograph this. And then over here is my wildlife and aurora borealis. I do have a lot more aurora borealis that you can see on my social media and other various sources, but I chose the ones that were closest to me, my favorite and best quality images, and these are them. Now, these two foxes, I'm sure you guys are all looking at them because they really draw the attention. So these two foxes are actually the same foxes. They were captured here in Flin Flon. I was not going out to shoot it at all. I was snowboarding at Second Valley, but I bring my camera everywhere. So I was about from me to him away when I took this. So I took that with a wide angle lens, and he was just sitting there with me, just looking out at Flin Flon, you know. And then he had a second where we just looked each other in the eye, or he looked me in the camera, and I captured this, right? It's not with my big telephoto, it's with a tiny little 35 millimeter lens, this little guy. So you can imagine how close we have to be. So that was just a special moment, and you know, another northern aspect, because here we have buildings, we have nature close up. I want to photograph the north and just expose it because it's just so beautiful, and I want to share it. So, you know, all these, they're different photos and different niches, but to me they're all the same. And if you guys follow my social media, which I know a lot of you do, there are a lot of photographers that they photograph the same thing, like all landscapes and stuff, and I get that, but I just wanted to photograph the north. So it's a deeper meaning in that. Like, what is the north? Well, it's the people, it's the wildlife, it's the culture, it's the food, it's literally everything that we embody, right? So that's what makes me photograph wildlife. And the fox is definitely an image that I love because of the contrast of the color and how close he allowed me to be, right? Because everyone in Flin Flon feeds foxes. But they gotta eat too, I guess, you know, even though it's bad for the environment and their, you know, natural survival habits. So then my Northern Lights, I learned how to shoot Northern Lights last year from Randy Whitbread, who's a local photographer, and you know, he's the OG here in Flin Flon. So he taught me the few basics, and then I just went from there and just self-taught, you know, a lot of different things on how to shoot, different angles, and just little hacks that I could get into. So this one was very close. All three of these Northern Lights, here, here, and here, with the same color tones, were taken at Lake Athabasca, or Lake Athapap, here close to Flin Flon. So this one, there were Northern Lights on the north end of the lake, and you know, they were going across the sky. And for those of you that don't know Northern Lights, just a side fact: these are this is oxygen. So the different colors are different types of chemicals. So the green is oxygen. So anyways, this photo, I went on to our walking path behind our trail, and I originally wanted to go for a photo where I had trees. So imagine me looking up, so I'll do it. But the trees, I wanted them to be round, like in a circle, and then have these northern lights and this green sky above. And I did get that photo, but I just didn't like it. What really caught my eye was how this one tree was leaning on the others, bringing you in. And then, out of sheer luck, obviously, if you look in detail, you'll see a line coming through. That's a shooting star. So I was lucky to capture this one with the shooting star, obviously. But for me, it was just the lines and how it led you into the color. Because the sky, it wasn't that vibrant. It was a sheer line going across the sky, whereas some nights it really lights up. Then I'll move up. So this was at Esquasson. There was a burn area. There was a forest fire in 2004. So, there's pine trees that are regrowing in the area, and I just loved this little guy, honestly. That's all I can say about it, was just the frost on him, and he just stood out. Like, there's, how many trees in the forest, and for whatever reason, I chose this guy. Or woman, or, it's a tree. But, then this Northern Lights, it was also on AFPAP, as I said, and these two were actually the same night. Just the sky was full moon that night, and I was out on a self-project basically, which I waited months for, and then I finished my project that I was working on, and then I captured these two. And these two just, I love these so much, just because you can really see the detail and the movement of the lights and how they are, right? And that's the thing with Northern Lights. People ask all the time, is this how you see it? It is, and it isn't. It's a hard thing to describe about Northern Lights, because sometimes you have nights where you can't see them, but they look like a cloud. Where you have dark skies and they look like a dark cloud in the night, and it's hard to describe to people unless you see it. But this night they were dancing like this, and it was a phenomenal night, And then 2 minutes later you have, same tree if you really look.
That's what I was gonna ask.
So, 5 minutes later you have a different dance happening, or spirit above, or whatever you think about the lights, right? So that's how I captured that, and I'll just move back to the Raven. So the Raven here, this was this day actually at Sioux Falls. So I was packing up to leave, and I drove into Thompson to gas up just in case, and I stopped back out at Sioux Falls. And random story, I was like making a salad and I dropped it, and ravens came, and then, but like honestly, I picked it up off the ground, and I got it before he did, 5-second rule. So anyways, he was watching, but he came super close, obviously because of the food. But it was neat because I got 2 shots of him, and this one he just like really opened up and gave me his character, right? Because ravens, they're so characteristic. Each one, right? You got a big fat one, you got a big, little skinny one, and they're all different, right? But ravens are just amazing birds, and to me, they're like, obviously they're everywhere, but they definitely do have a northern vibe to them, because they're dark, they're mysterious, right? They don't fly away in the winter, they stay here. And they're also big in Scandinavian folklore and stuff, like, they have something northern about them. So that's why I threw this guy into the mix, but he also looks at you and kind of intimidates you. So as you can see, the fox, and it's just that he opened up, and we looked at each other and we had an understanding. And it may sound cliche, but each photo, and I can't stress this enough, has different meaning and different emphasis to me. So how he opened up and how calm he was, and we could just sit there and look out, at the landscape was absolutely spectacular. And to photograph it and see the details and the different shades within his fur, it's really cool to see. And then we moved to my most recent photos. So this was taken 4 weeks ago, and this one was taken 3 weeks ago. So this one, I went on another excursion, basically, a self-excursion, actually with a group of ladies, fellow photographers and wanderers, and it was kind of like a Mikanagan trip, where we looked at a map and we said we're going to go here, straight through the woods, and this was at Loucks Falls, and it's a local fishing spot for us humans and us otters, you know, in the winter. So at Loucks, we went in, it was around 1.5k snow, and yeah, and some of the thickest forest I've been through, like Mikanagan, it was thick, and I could have taken a way easier way, but I didn't. So this one was not planned. I didn't know otters would be there. We went just to check out the falls in the winter because people don't normally go there, right? You have to portage to get there anyways and stuff. So we came in through the woods, and then, you know, about 3/4 of the way, and we knew we were close, and we could have followed the shoreline, but I was like, let's take the shore of the river. Because we could see the falls, we were like that close, and we came around this little peninsula, and the ladies saw a hole, and they thought like, oh, open water, but I knew it was an otter hole, so that got me really excited. So then we got to the falls where, you know, like you fill with fish and people park their boats and stuff. And we didn't see any otters until we were leaving. You know, I have my huge lens with me in my backpack, way deep in there. And that thing alone weighs 10 ounces. So I'm not prepared to shoot otters at the time. So next thing you know, 8 otters pop up out of the ice. And some are way over there, you know, like 30 feet away. This guy in particular, he got really curious, and like otters can be territorial as well, so he got a little closer. But what's cool about this image, and I kept waiting for him, I let the others go up, and they were, you know, like 2K ahead of me. I was like, I'm staying here all night if I have to, because I can shoot otters, and then northern lights are gonna come, so I'll camp out all night. So what's really cool about this isn't an otter hole he came up out of. Yeah, the ice was basically non-existent. It was snow and slush, and that was it. So, you know, it's also a warning, be safe on the ice. But really interesting to see, you know, his head will like pop up, you know. It's like one of those games where you bat him on the head. So yeah, he popped up his head and he kept getting closer. And then it was about 10 minutes he disappeared, and you know there were like 6 others roaming about. But I wanted to photograph him because I wanted him to look exactly at me. So I waited a good 10-20 minutes, and then finally I photographed him twice. And I look at the time and I'm like, okay, they're probably 2K up. So you know, it was an incredible experience because I always had otters on my list of animals to photograph, but they're a hard thing to like, you know, catch and shoot, right? So it worked out that I got to check that off my bucket list, and then I got to experience that too. And you know, like all these images are experiences, emotions, visuals, and you know, they all have so much different meaning, but at the end, they are the North. So that's why I chose these, because these are my favorite, and in my opinion, my best high quality photos of the winter, and they're close to home minus the mountaintops, right? But also my thinking behind these are like, okay, we don't have mountaintops, but we have rocks, we have ice, and it's not every day, you know, you get to look at a clear side image with that much detail of ice. So those are, long story straight, those are why I chose these images, and also the color palettes matched up as well too, which I really like. So those are the images I chose, and sorry about that big spiel. So what have I learned about photography? Photography is an art, it can be a job, it can be so much, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's a crapshoot. Like business wise, some days you go out and you can be on the highway and drive 7 hours and then you forgot your SIM card and you can't even shoot, or you forgot your battery and those things cost nearly nearly like $100, right? But it's all the experiences and meeting new people that's so special. But the big take home is just go with the flow, do day by day, and just cherish every moment, even the worst, right? But the worst is never the worst, because you're out doing this, and if you don't, you have a mental visual. Yeah, I have my gear here. Thought I'd show you guys. So, because lots of people like to ask, what do I shoot with? This little guy is very special. It's the first camera I shot with, and the camera I shot most of these on. It's a basic Nikon D3500. Costs like $500. It's a great starting out camera, and I dropped it this summer. But what I also learned about photography is it's not about the gear. It's this takes time, right? It's about learning and your physical and mental ability to shoot northern lights with an f-stop, which is the little circle you shoot out of, of 3.5, which is not that. You could get better quality images, but it just goes to shoot what kind of images you can shoot. So at the end of the day, I like to use what I've got, right? If I forgot my tripod one day, true story, I used an old dirty coffee lid and propped my camera up on it, right? To take a photo of myself. It's use what you got, and just to try and prove yourself to yourself, but to really tone in this craft or this art or whatever you guys want to call it. So that's what I've learned and what I take from it. Some things I'm thankful for are definitely friends and family. Super thankful for your guys' support, and you guys came out tonight, and the majority of you guys are family. Well, you all are, right? Because we're all fawners. But another thing I'm thankful for too is just the photography community here in Flin Flon. It's superb. You have Randy Whipred, right? He doesn't have to teach me how to shoot northern lights or even the basics, right? And now we can go out, set up a tripod together, and just shoot and talk photography and stuff. And same thing with Suzanne. We can go out. She's gonna shoot maybe wildlife and different angles and stuff, but we all help each other out, even though some of us are trying to run it more on a business side or just a hobby side. It's amazing. And even talking about canvases, right? Vern Rutley, another photographer, superb guy. We're talking about canvases and where we get ours. And there's a lot of photographers out there that I've met, and they're big names, and they will blow you off. And I'm very thankful for that community that we have, because there's some guys that they see you as a threat, or they're just too good for you. So it's amazing to have that, and I'm super thankful for that, because that kind of ties into the family, because they, at the end we're all one, right? So that's who I would like to thank, and I'd also like to thank you for coming out tonight. And my plans for for next year is spontaneous, because that's just kind of who I am. But I definitely do have some plans, and each day I am, doing different things and learning different things, because every day is a learning experience. So to mention what my plan is next year, I don't really have one. I'm going to go to creative communications, hopefully, at Red River, and that'll benefit this, and hopefully have another art gallery and stuff. So yeah, that's a little about me and my photography, and I hope you guys aren't falling asleep, and I hope you guys really enjoy these images as much as I do, because I know if I had my own house that I could afford, I'd put all of these in there. So yeah.
What about the cabin?
Oh right, yeah. I did forget 2 images. So the cabin, I wanted to photograph. I was kind of like on a cabin hunt last winter, so I was looking for wood cabins in particular. They had it had to be wood and just really old, rustic, just super Canadian and northern looking. And I found this shed on someone's property. So it's on Lake Path, and I'm not going to say where, because don't need any wanderers like myself. So yeah, I photographed this, and it sat perfectly in the shadows behind the main cabin, and it's just the little features of it. Even though it is a shack, right? You got the horns, you got the green door, and the red contrast of the frame. And it just pops in a simple way, right? And it's just another vision that I think of when I think of the North, right? Like it makes me think of the fur trade, even though it's a modern shack, right? And yeah, it just screams to me like northern vibes and stuff. And the one photo I forgot to mention, pardon me, before we go. So this is my most recent photo, and I was actually working overtime, and I ran home, threw on gear like I was going to Antarctica, and I was out at Big Island photographing an ice shack, and that was my main goal, and there were northern lights going above. And then on the way back, I stopped at another location, and I'm lucky I did, because I thought, I was hoping just to chat with Randy Whitbread and just chat with him, because I haven't seen him in a while, at his spot. So he was photographing, and I didn't bring out my camera, and he was like photographing an angle over there, and then eventually I was just looking around, and I saw something. And to most people, they're probably thinking, ooh, the northern lights, or the tree. But it's the snow for me. And there was a drift, and even the photo, it's a great photo, you should buy it, it's immaculate, it still doesn't do justice. Because the snow drift that was under the tree, and you can still see it, and it's great, but in person, it's just, you'll never get that, right? But for me, it was the snowdrift, and obviously it was the lines of how it plays in, and it was, the snow in this is the main focal point, and then the tree. So if I had to rate what's important in this photo to me, or what speaks, is the snow, then the tree, then the northern lights. The northern lights happen to just complement the whole piece, right? Because it adds a nice magical or spiritual touch. But the snow was, just so special. And then to have this lone tree, it's just simplicity of the winter, right? It's the little things that we don't look at, right? Or appreciate. So, yeah, these were the pieces. Sorry I missed those ones. That's my fault. get too excited about this. Even setting up, I was literally screaming and, you know, cursing at myself, like, you know, yeah. So, yeah, this is my first gallery too, which is super exciting, and as I said, super thankful that you guys came out and I could bore you tonight talking about my photographs. Yeah, this was something exciting, and I couldn't wait to show you all, because they're way better in person too, right? So yeah, I just want to thank you guys, and also thank you, huge thanks to Norva too, for letting me, you know, share this space. So
Wanna
yeah.
say something? I love your enthusiasm. You can just feel your passion, and it really was delightful listening to you talk about all your painting or all your photographs. And thank you so much. And Norva is just thrilled to have your exhibition here, and we wish you all the best of luck as you go forward in your photography career.
He wasn't quite as nice when I scared the herd of caribou off the road.
Yeah, if you guys want to hear a story, I'll tell it.
So Tyler's going to be here for another hour.
Nah, this one's
welcome
short.
to
So I
Chop.
have this little guy
Yeah.
on this camera, and I was in a vehicle behind, and that is on my bucket list, like near top, is to photograph the woodland caribou, and I've even been giving the conservation officers a hard time, like, hey, text me if you ever see them. So I had this on there, and of course we're driving, and I'm good at spotting an animal, like, quite a ways away now. Like, I can spot them like 2K. And, you know, you see this black herd, and it's a herd. How can you not see it, you know? So anyways, I'm getting this puppy out of my bag, changing my lens, and I'm set. And now we're within, you know, from me to probably 15-30 feet away. But there's a vehicle ahead of us, and they don't see it. You know, not to point fingers. And it's a woodland caribou, and they're going extinct. And, you know, like, they're magical creatures, stupid creatures.
Reindeer.
Right, reindeer, yeah. Amazing. And, yeah, a vehicle scares them off, and I hop out of the vehicle, just like, you know, hoping they'll come back, which they're not, obviously. And then you hear, "Did you see those caribou?" I said, "Oh yeah, I saw them," and you scared them away. You know, and that was my one shot so far, photographing those, and the one time I was set. Yeah.
Okay, that was us.
Frustrating. Yeah.
Good thing you knew you.
Yeah.
We saw them.
Yeah. It was.
But on the flip side, just think of that beautiful snowshoe.
It was a heartbreak. Yeah, it still is.
But they went by fast. So
Yeah.
it was hard.
Yeah, and then 2 days later, you know, buddy asked, like, "You want to come out ice fishing?" And I'm not the biggest fisherman. And I said, "No, I'm just going to go shoot." And then next thing you know, I heard a caribou, and he got it on film. And I'm like, great, now I got to go ice fishing more. So literally can't catch any luck with them. But yeah, that's my little caribou spiel. Yeah, well, thank you guys for coming out. It means a lot. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the photos, and I hope you guys will enjoy what's to come, because I don't know, and that's the excitement, right? So, yeah, have a good evening.